Hello and welcome to the Hand of Pod, a football nostalgia show brought to you by Sterling Sports. Each episode we bring you fascinating stories about legendary players in our countdown of the top 100 greatest players of all time. Follow the show to find out who will be crowned number one. Hello, welcome to the Hand of Pod. Today I'm joined by Mr. Torben Kane. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Hello. Very formal.
And this is this is our first in-person podcast, which is quite exciting, isn't it? Yes. Now, last week we were talking about George Weah, King George, AC Milan legends, and we're going to the other side of Milan this week to talk about Argentinian fullback, utility man, stalwart in the Inter Milan team, and one of their greatest ever players, a certain Javier Zanetti. Now, I grew up with Zanetti was one of probably two, with Cafu, of the best right backs in the world, but he was probably more of a wing back, wasn't he? A utility man.
Yeah, well, he'd sort of moved into midfield, got that opportunity, and then kept hold of it for a while. So yeah, the full proper utility. Yeah.
He played that kind of central defensive midfielder role quite a lot, as well as getting up and down that right wing. He actually played for 19 years at Inter Milan, even though he was Argentinian, and his probably highlight of his career was doing the treble with Jose Mourinho at the helm in 2010. Now, he was one of his nicknames was El Tractor.
Yes,
that's for his stamina, for his never-ending runs up and down. But later he became known as Il Capitano, as he took over as captain of Milan for so many years, and was probably more fitting of him as a person and a player, Il Capitano. And he was always the one raising the famous trophies that we saw for Inter Milan in their kind of glory era that he played under.
He was there for such a long time, over such a successful period. How many trophies was it? Nearly 15, 20?
16. 15 as captain, though.
Can't be that many people higher than that on the list, could there?
Yeah, he's definitely going to be, he's most likely Inter Milan's most successful captain, I'd say, with the amount of trophies. I mean, he actually succeeded Bergomi, another right back, as captain. So Bergomi was the right back when he signed, which is when he first signed, he was in that central midfielder role because Giuseppe Bergomi was their right back. Another player who played his entire career at Inter Milan, and he went on to break Bergomi's appearance record.
He did.
But yeah, so he
and really surpassed it by a long way.
Yeah, by a long way in the end. And but yeah, he took over as captain.
The baton was passed.
Yeah, the baton was passed indeed. But Zanetti, he was born in Buenos Aires. His parents were actually of Italian ancestry, and I always used to think when I was younger that he was Italian.
Especially with the name as well.
With the name, yeah. And he kind of looks quite Italian, doesn't he? But yeah, he was actually rejected by Independiente's youth academy because they said he was too slight and too weak. So he'd kind of given up on the dream for a while, and he was working with his dad as a bricklayer, delivering milk and helping out in a relative's grocery store in Buenos Aires. And it wasn't until 1992 that he got picked up by Talleres, second division side in Argentina. and that was at 19 years old. So he hadn't even played.
It's quite late.
Quite late.
I'm guessing that was quite late back then as well. Pele started when he was 14, 15.
Well, you think there's teenagers playing at the top level back in those days as well. But he was very a late bloomer, you'd say, and I think that sounds like it was down to his physical attributes more than anything.
He got laying lots of bricks and just bulked up.
a few years laying bricks. And then he moved to First Division side Banfield the following season. And after a season with Banfield, he got called up to the national team in 1994 when he started playing for Argentina. And he was getting great interest from Boca Juniors and River Plate after one season at Banfield, but he turned them all down and said he wanted to stay at Banfield for another season, which led to a year later in 95 him being signed by Inter Milan.
Banfield, were they in the equivalent of the Premier Division?
Yes, Banfield were, but not Talleres were in the second division. Right. So Banfield, they were a smaller club in the top flight. But yeah, it was Massimo Moratti had just taken over as president at Inter Milan, and he was starting to spend big. And Zanetti was actually his first signing, which he eventually spent 1.5 billion on players.
My word, back in the 90s.
In the 90s. So he signed.
Was that Roy Hodgson around that time as well? Was that just
Roy Hodgson managed Inter Milan. Yeah. He was one of Zanetti's managers in his career. Moratti signed Ibrahimovic, Wesley Sneijder, Luis Figo, Patrick Vieira, Samuel Eto'o, Christian Vieri, Zamorano, Crespo, Brazilian Ronaldo.
Wow. That's a who's who.
Roberto Carlos, Adriano, Mason. So he's
he didn't waste the money though.
Yeah. It's a bit of a who's who. But yeah, it was quite interesting. I thought that Zanetti was his first signing. It was he was signed along with another Argentinian called Sebastian Rambert.
Oh, I heard that he was part of the deal, but not really so much for him. It was more he was to help the other guy settle in or something.
To help Zanetti.
That Zanetti was brought in mainly to help the other guy.
Oh, to help the other guy.
Yeah, so they were more interested in the other guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I read that somewhere. Made me chuckle.
Yeah, it seemed to used to happen quite a lot, didn't it? Where you'd see a couple of guys sign from the same country for a club, and it was like, oh, we've got to sign his mate, so he settles in. But yeah, Rambert, I think he only lasted a season or so at Inter Milan. But Zanetti obviously went on for 19 seasons, totaling 858 appearances.
That's an astonishing amount, isn't it? Yeah. Real longevity.
Yeah, the most appearance for Inter. Giuseppe Bergomi was behind him with 758 appearances. So he's done 100 more appearances than Bergomi.
Which is kind of
Bergomi, who spent his
seasons.
Bergomi spent his entire career at Inter, and he's signed with Inter when he was 22. So I think it goes to show how long Zanetti's career just went on for.
How fit / maybe lucky he was with injuries and things like that. Obviously kept himself in good shape. Yeah.
He was just that kind of ever present, ever reliable. And when we've talked about fullbacks and centre backs, really like defenders, the legendary defenders have all had this reliability. Even when we're talking about the ones that have been more attacking and more flamboyant, they've always been that ever present in the team and ones you can rely on. I mentioned Cafu, who it was Rich, we talked about right backs, and we both thought Cafu was probably up there as our greatest ever right back, and he was playing in Serie A the same time as Zanetti, and he had a bit more flair to him, but at the same time, he was just always there, always fit, always reliable. And same with someone like Philip Lahm.
Yeah, just dependable, and especially playing in a successful team. That's it really goes to show how good they are when they manage to keep their place in a team, within a club that's got so much money, bringing in so many different players, they still respected him and could rely on him to do a good job every time, season in, season out.
I think the utility aspect of his play is probably helps you stay in a team as well, because, like I said, when he first came in, he was playing centre mid, and with Bergomi on the right, and then he actually then went out on the right and played there for a number of years until they signed Mason at right back, and he went back into the centre, and he was actually playing that central defensive midfielder when under Mourinho when they did the treble, but he was always in the team in that role. Him and Bergomi played alongside each other for a few years, and Zanetti's kind of trophy haul, like we said, 16 trophies, 15 as captain. He won the 1998 UEFA Cup. That was the kind of against Lazio.
He scored.
Yes,
and he doesn't score too, but he doesn't score too many, and it's I did watch it, and it's a lovely strike. It almost looks like he slices it. He's going for goal. He scored a few goals that were kind of look a bit slicey.
Well, he was quite 2-footed, wasn't he? So he could score with his left and right. He didn't score many goals, but he could score with his left and right.
But that particular goal, in off the right in the corner, in off the bar.
Yeah. So that was the UEFA Cup final against Lazio, and they'd lost the UEFA Cup final the previous year on penalties, and he got taken off just before the penalty, so he didn't take a penalty. And then the team he was playing in that won the UEFA Cup, it included Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, Zamorano, who scored both goals in their win against Lazio, Djorkaeff, Diego Simeone, Canu, Alvaro Recoba, Taribo West, Gianluca Pagliuca in goal. It's a classic team. And on the Lazio team, I noticed when I had a quick look was his future manager, Roberto Mancini.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, 'cause he did a stint at Inter, didn't he?
Yeah, he did a stint.
2000s.
Yeah, many managers did a stint at Inter Milan in that time. I don't know if I made a note of it, but I think somewhere it said he'd had the most ever managers.
The most 19 managers. I
19.
saw that
You
as well.
see that, yeah.
Which again, to get that many appearances under that many different managers, just goes to show how. Because so often, you get a great player, but new manager comes in, they've got their own. They want to put their own style on. They've got their own personnel change they want to make, and yet, despite having 19 different managers, they all kept him in there. Yeah. They all could depend on him. They knew what they were going to get. Goes to show the class of the guy.
Yes, yeah, definitely. He was the one that they could all rely on. Such a kind of quality player in his position and the positions he played in. You just everything you kind of needed in that position. You were never going to get him out of the team unless you were going to sign basically Cafu. But when they signed Mason was probably rated the best right back in the world for a while, because that was kind of after Cafu had gone on, or at the very least in his later days, Maicon was incredible for that period, wasn't he? Because you always remember that game with Gareth Bale when he scored a hat-trick against Milan, and he was skinning Maicon, and it was such a big deal because he did it against Maicon, who at that point was like, oh wow, he's incredible, and look what Gareth Bale's done to him.
You can do that against him.
Yeah. So after that 1998 UEFA Cup win, he played in the World Cup and scored a goal that I remember very well, and I'm sure you do.
Yeah, it's not a very, not a great game to remember. Yeah. Well, it was a great game, but it's just sort of the wrong reasons, I guess.
Yeah, it was a great game, but it was the equaliser against England, the kind of free kick routine, which even at the time I remember thinking that was a really good goal. Because it was like a training ground routine where there's like the slide pass. Zanetti peels off the wall, slide pass into him. Probably someone like Diego Simeone who got Beckham sent off played it into him, takes a touch with his right foot, and then puts it. It was kind of like into the roof of the net, wasn't it? He puts it with his left. So again, that showed how kind of 2-foot he was. Heartbreaking, yeah. I mean, not many people talk about that goal when they refer to that game. It's the Owen goal and the Beckham sending off. But not many people kind of go, oh, and also there was this amazing goal by Zanetti, which was probably the most important goal of the game, because that took it to extra time, and then which led to us losing on penalties, unfortunately. But he went on to win 4 Coppa Italias, 4 Supercoppas, 5 Scudettis, the 2010 Champions League final, as I said, and the 2010 Club World Cup.
And their only treble. And that's the Champions League they won was the first since 1964, is that right?
Yeah, sounds like it, yeah.
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds about right when I think about the stats I've looked at. But yeah, I mean, it's the only treble an Italian side has ever won, European treble. You think about the great Juventus and Milan sides; they never did that feat, and there's only been a kind of handful of sides that have ever done a European treble.
Yeah, it's astonishing, isn't it? Juventus, Milan, you would have thought they would have been in there. Some of those great teams that they had through those years.
Yeah.
More recently, and 90s, late 80s.
Yeah, I think it shows how kind of hard it is to do. People weren't really talking about them as a potential treble-winning team. So you think about City, who've just won the treble last season. Everyone was talking about, will they do this? Well, I mean, it feels like for the last few years, everyone's talked about someone, either Liverpool or City, is going to do the quadruple this year, which is just ridiculous that you start talking about that so early on. But I felt like everyone kind of thought it was coming for City to do something like that. But yeah, that entity, it was an amazing team, but no one was talking about them like that.
No, because there were so many other amazing teams around as well. You know, the English teams are doing very well. You know,
well, Pep's Barcelona.
Yeah. Who they beat in the semis.
Yeah.
That was a Mourinho masterclass.
Yeah, and I think that's the match that kind of summed up the kind of era and the treble, because it was all about Pep versus Mourinho and the two styles of play, and like Guardiola playing the kind of total football, and Mourinho just playing this defensive masterclass. And I don't know if you remember much of the game, but it was a case of he didn't even want the ball. And it was the second leg when because they'd managed to win the first leg at the Nou Camp, and they were at home in the second leg, and they just basically didn't even want the ball. They were like, "You have the ball." And then they were just fouling them, and they just had their line and set up, and they couldn't get through them. And they were, because Pep kind of plays in channels, and he was doing this down the channel, and rather trying to stop them man to man, they were kind of marking the space in between the channels, so they had nowhere to play the ball to. And it was just such an incredible example of how good a manager Mourinho is, because he's just completely nullified everything Pep has done, but by not even really playing football, just through the defensive tactics.
Because the Barca team was player for player a much better team.
Yeah,
on paper.
Yeah. I mean, the team they had that won the Champions League that year, they had Samuel Eto'o and Diego Milito up front, Goran Pandev, Wesley Sneijder, Cambiasso, Christian Chivu, Walter Samuel, Lucio, Marco Materazzi, and certain Balotelli, who was a bit part player, but
and that series of names that you just said there are not as impressive as the previous lot. So
but it's a certain type of player.
Yeah, and that's what Mourinho's got there, isn't he?
There's some ruthless players in there. Walter Samuel and Lucio at the Marco Materazzi at the back.
Yeah, Materazzi played a few seasons at Everton.
If you're enjoying the Hand of Pod, follow Sterling Sports for more great football nostalgia content. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can send us a text message. Just click the link in the show notes.
as an Everton fan, it was sad to see him go.
Yeah, I bet.
You could see that he was a class above. He needed to go and play Champions League. So, yeah, very effective.
Yes, and Zanetti was playing that, like I said, that defensive midfielder role for Inter. So he was very much part of that tactical genius and that unit and getting them
discipline to play that game for that amount of time against such great players and get the result. Just goes.
And he was old, so later that year, October 2010, he became the oldest player to score in a Champions League game at 37. In a 4-3 win over Tottenham, and it happened to just be his second ever Champions League goal. Inter ended up retiring his number 4 shirt in 2015.
What do you think about the whole retiring a shirt number?
I quite like it as a gesture to a legendary player. I do quite like it.
Do you? I think it's a bit silly. I think it's that, but then also I remember when Beckham went to United. There's a big thing about the number 7 shirt and all those great names that have played in the number 7 shirt over the years for United, and you're kind of depriving future generations to sort of I don't know have that moment, I suppose, being given the number 4 shirt. I don't know. I feel like it's an unnecessary thing, but then I quite like it as well. It's a big respect, and I think there's no one that's going to be sort of fill those shoes as well as you, so we'll retire.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I think it's when it has to be a player that this isn't going to ever happen again. Like, the thing is with United, there's been so many great number 7s. It's like, well, you're not going to retire the number 7 shirt because look at how many we've had already. No one's going to come in and be that good that you retire it. But then when you think about what other players have done for their clubs and countries and the size of the club, and you think they're the best player that team has ever had and will ever have.
Yeah.
So,
and he's played that many seasons, been such a big part of it.
Yeah. So retiring.
There's probably a few number 4 Inter Milan number 4s through the last century that might be a little bit bitter.
Yeah, could be. But he's played more games than anyone and won 15 trophies as captain. So it's unlikely that anyone's going to come and do that again for them. So
there's lots of numbers out there.
Yeah, and they can have another number. The weirdest one is Birmingham retiring Jude Bellingham's shirt.
That is weird.
That's the weirdest.
17 or something?
Something like that. 6, maybe even 16. But yeah, retired.
That's one that springs to mind as being particularly silly. However,
but if he goes on to be like multiple Ballon d'Or winner and like wins the World Cup with England, will we still say it's silly? Because if you said, you said, oh, Bobby Moore, that he played for, like, I don't know, I don't know who he started. He probably started with West Ham, but let's say he played for Leyton Orient when he was 16, and you say, oh, Leyton Orient retired Bobby Moore's shirt number, you'd be oh, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's Bobby Moore, isn't it?
That's all he's going to
be. That's a great shout from Leyton Orient. But yeah, so you never know. Future might make that look less silly. But yeah, I remember hearing it when he was at Dortmund. I was like, are you joking? He retired his shirt. I mean, he played one season.
What number was it that he played?
22.
Oh, that's good.
He played 22 at Dortmund as well. Just got given the 5 at Madrid. He ended up being the joint 3rd most appearances in Serie A. And same as Totti on 618, only beaten exactly the same as Totti, 618, only beaten by Maldini and Buffon.
Of course, yes.
Of course, yeah. And he's actually, I had a look at the list of the most games ever played by footballers in history, and he's 15th on the list, having played
1,100 and something.
Yeah, well, that was 115. Yeah, 15th on the list, and mainly above him is goalkeepers.
Yeah, because they hold their position, don't get injured as much.
They go on for a lot more years.
Yeah,
but yeah,
arguably it's kind of more athletic positions as they get older. But
Peter Shilton at the top.
Yeah,
Top of the list.
Is he?
Yeah.
There you go. He was less mobile in those latter years, but still dependable.
Yeah, he's just got such a long career. It's insane. Peter Shilton's career began in 1966.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah, you think?
Going like late 80s, isn't he?
He played in the 1990 World Cup.
Wow, yeah.
And he went on for a few years after that.
Did he?
Yeah, he went and played in the lower leagues quite a lot in the 90s. So his Argentina career was less kind of lucrative in terms of silverware, but he did amass a huge amount of caps for them at 145. He won silver in the 1996 Olympics. As we said, first World Cup, 98, and scored that free kick against England, which was only one of 5 goals he ever scored for Argentina in his 145 games. Yeah, to be against us. They went and lost to Holland in the quarterfinals in the next round. Played in the 2002 World Cup. Argentina got knocked out in the group stage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Then he missed out on the 2006 World Cup, and it was quite a surprise move by the coach to drop Zanetti in 2006. But Argentina lost to Germany in the quarterfinals in 2006. So were they right to drop him? Would they have got past Germany? Would they got any further? Who knows? But it was a bit of a strange one. He played in the 95, 99, 2004 and 2007 Copa Americas. He lost in 2 finals, never won it. And despite winning the treble in 2010, he then wasn't called up to the World Cup squad for the 2010 World Cup, which was heavily criticised, especially that they ended up playing Jonas Gutierrez at right back. Do you remember Jonas Gutierrez?
Vaguely.
So he was a winger for Newcastle, and at that time they were playing in the Championship.
Bizarre, isn't it? man of Zanetti's quality and reliability, experience, especially at a tournament where like having some old heads can only be a good thing. You know, people that have been there, done it, won it. Not necessarily won the World Cup with them, but you know he's a winner, isn't he? He's a successful, experienced guy, and not to choose to have him on the plane.
Yeah, and not even pick a right back in there.
Yeah, and that's even more bizarre, isn't it?
It's mental. But they got to the final. Where obviously they lost to Spain. You know, if Zanetti was there, would he have got them over the line?
Spain were particularly
felt like Spain were never going to not win that World Cup.
They were very good, almost unbeatable.
Yeah, South African World Cup. But he ended up getting picked again for Argentina the following year for the Copa America. Lost in the quarterfinals to Uruguay. But yeah, finished on 145 caps. That's third on the all-time list. Caps for Argentina behind just Mascherano and Lionel Messi.
Well, they're big names as well. And how many, had he gone to those World Cups, another handful of games, could he have, would he have surpassed one of those? Not Messi, I presume.
No, I think Messi's quite far ahead. I was surprised by how many games Mascherano played for Argentina. I think he just didn't notice him a lot of the time because he wasn't that kind of big name in the team. He was just quietly getting on with his business.
Defensive midfield.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they do.
Incredible. But yeah, that's Javier Zanetti. What a career.
Yeah, what a career. That is a long career, successful. Yeah, it's he deserves his place on that list.
Yeah. Coming up on the next episode, we've got another right back. Going a little bit further back to Jaume Santos, a Brazilian right back from the 50s, who actually had a big part to play in the kind of modern day advancing, overlapping right back that we see now. So
in the 50s.
In the 50s, yeah.
Played with Pelé then in his first World Cup.
Yeah, he did. Yes, won 2 World Cups. But we'll tell you all about Jaume Santos next time on The Handed Pod. Torbs, thanks for joining me. It's been great to talk about Javier Zanetti, and look forward to the next one.